I mean, it's helped me to where I've become mostly professional artist. That's what I do most of the time. I do have one other side gig, but it has grown to a point where I may be able to create like the first female muscle-ish art type of brand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could relate what you're saying because I draw at times. So I don't draw as much now, but there was a time um like I would be like in and out of drawing and stuff, and I would draw like muscle women and stuff, muscle women, and there'd be like a point where I would animate them, and a lot of the stuff I would try to do, like it would be like in the library, it was public. So, people would look at my stuff and, I would get like these negative vibes, at times. So, I kind of understand, that point, because it's not, we're like in a society that's very liberal, but, you know, m- female bodybuilders, they don't really get, I mean, like lust, like desiring, like drawing like a female bodybuilder or desiring a female bodybuilder. It is a bit tabooish because people do give you those looks, and it's like after a while, it's like you just have to kind of understand why and just block it out of your mind and stuff like that. And for me, I kind of understand it in certain perspectives too, because it's not normal. But I had to look at it too, like I can't turn that shit off. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
exactly.
I can't turn it off.
Bro,
Like I did it. There's times that I try like not to not even focus too much on it, and it kind of sucks me in a little bit because just seeing the women flexing and all that stuff, it kind of fascinating, like this past Saturday, I went on my first bodybuilding competition, a show. I wasn't competing, but I was in the show.
just to
I
go
was,
see.
yeah, yeah, and I'm seeing all these women like, and I
It's
seen this huge
exciting.
sister, yeah, and it's like, wow. I miss I miss the women's bodybuilding and the women's physique. And so what I just seen the men, but just the audience itself, like it was like I seen women and a lot of them like work out or competing and all that stuff. So yeah, it's just seeing them up close. It's like wow, you know. And then the thing is too, like they too have issues as well too, because some of them they seem kind of closed down and stuff. I don't know where. Maybe that's just coming from me. I didn't want to like engage in talking with them too much. I talked to one person, but I guess because people kind of like knock them off or whatever. So
Well, I've actually dated a female bodybuilder before, and I've I've mingled with the several over the years as I've done this more and more. And it is true. And I mean, if you really listen to a lot of them that get on, that have like podcasts and stuff, there's a lot of issues that they deal with similar to us artists in terms of having a lot of anxiety and perfectionism. That's a huge thing that they kind of deal with. There's an inner critic that's always going on. Um, and yes, the a lot of times when they're at shows, what you have to understand is like they're so, especially the ones who are competing, they're so carb depleted, dehydrated. They're very stressed out and tired. That's why a lot of them are very standoffish. But even the ones who are, because like what you were talking about with the whole, like there's several points you brought up that I want to echo back on, but the girls in the stands, like even just the off season girls, who some of them were not even really competitors, they just work out a lot. I remember
right.
the first big event that I ever went to. It was called the Europa Super Show in Dallas. That's where I'm from, and it was like I was 18 going on 19, I think. Yeah. And so it was my first time actually seeing muscle women, like a lot of them in one place. And to me, they were massive. Like I was, I'm a pretty big dude. I'm like just under 6 feet, and I'm about 215. So I played football. So I was looking at these women, and I'm like, dang, some of their arms, their thighs and stuff are bigger than mine, but they're also beautiful women. So
Yeah,
it was out of this world. But us being artists too, it's kind of like we get stuck in this mesmerized state where we view them almost like goddesses. So when
yeah,
we're first meeting them, and it seems like they are a little bit standoffish, and a lot of them too. One of the things we have to understand, and that's why I'm liking that you reached out, and that's why I was so eager to do this interview, is because I think a bridge needs to be gapped, or not be gapped, but closed between us admirers of female bodybuilders as well as the bodybuilders themselves, because they've kind of given us this label of schmoes, and
right,
like I don't even know what schmo means, but I just know that it's like those guys that really really admire female muscle. Well, over the course of time, it kind of just seems like they view us, they like the fact that we admire them, but it's like, keep yourself at a distance. And I think,
yeah,
there's several schmoes, because they're not used to seeing muscle women, that when they first see them, they act very awkward around them. They don't treat them
right,
like real human beings. And we got to understand, they are women. They're not goddesses. Um,
right.
that is, sometimes some of us don't want to hear that, because in our minds, we have them held up as these
No,
ultimate
you're right.
fantasies.
You're right.
But the
You're right.
truth is, to really break that barrier, you have to start to approach them and treat them almost like you would another person. Not
Right.
always be rushing to, how big are your biceps? Like, how much can you bench press? Because they get asked that several times every day. So,
Right.
us being true admirer versus just a random dude on the street who's just asking it to be like corny or whatever, to really get us to like start engaging more regularly with them, we do have to, like, find other, not other ways to, other things to talk about, because at the end of the day, we are going to still talk about their muscle and all this other stuff. But I also want the women to start kind of viewing us admirers in a different light, because I do reach out to some girls and ask them, if I can draw them. I don't do it as much as I used to, mainly because um, over the years you start to realize, okay, like some of them, they'll take a drawing, they're not necessarily going to tag me on Instagram or mention me or anything like that. So it's kind of like, you just wanted this pretty art piece of yourself, but then you don't really care at all about supporting the person who's doing that, because there's not a lot of female muscle artists out there, and it will always stay that way. I mean, it's going to always be a niche thing, but I think female muscle artists are going to always be reluctant to continue to put quality work out there for the girls to appreciate, if we feel like most of them don't care. That's why I like Brittany Parrish a lot, because she has been very supportive of the art that I've created of her. And yeah, so when girls randomly reach out to me, or actually like retag an old drawing I've done of them, and I hadn't really been thinking about them in like months or whatever, and then they do that, then it's like, oh wow, they actually really appreciated that art piece I did for them. So then it's like, for a guy like me, I'm be like, okay, if I'm cycling through different girls to draw, I'm gonna go look for the ones who have been very supportive in the past,
Yeah.
versus just the ones who I'm like, oh wow, she's pretty. Um, I've definitely become a lot more selective with who I choose to do drawings of, especially if it's gonna be like a promo thing.
Right.
And I think we have to, as artists and admirers, we have to be a little bit selective too on who we
Yeah.
approach to express that interest.
Because they're selective too. Like especially like if you want to interview them, a lot of them, they'll kind of see your stuff like I'll like DM them and show like the stuff that I've done, like, and some of them would kind of not respond, or I'm not able to get them at a good time. But a lot of times, like some of them, they do see it, but they don't respond, and some do, So I mean, I got my ups and downs with them as well. I would say, because some of them like rub me off the wrong way as well too. There's moments where you know, like recently, I had like I did like a video slide of a bodybuilder, and she took down my stuff, and I like two of them actually, they took down two of my stuff, and so I got a probation on YouTube and stuff. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that hurt. Both of them did. And I was trying to reach out to this one particular one, and she kind of made me into a villain. Like, I'm like, look, I even try to pay her. Like, look, maybe we could compromise or something. So, but she wasn't trying to hear it. She said that, I was taking her content without permission. And I've tried to reach out to her, but I never had no response. So that did it for me actually. So, but it's ups and downs with them. I mean, I do agree with you. You do have to be selective, because some of them would support you, some of them they're not. And that's the ugly part about it. Because you desire these women, but in reality, you're not. For me, it ain't gonna happen. Like, if it do happen, it's gonna I'm gonna be paying for it, like at a session or something like that. That's it. That's how far I went. That's it. I'm just keeping it real. So
And that's the thing is, they know about that stuff. Like the one who I had dated talked about the whole session game and all that, and like I all my money mainly goes back into my art, so I don't have that extra funds to just be throwing around for sessions and stuff. I have entertained the idea, um, but one of the things that we have to understand as the admirers, even though I think a lot of times we tend to think that, okay, because most people tend to be more put off by female muscle, they tend to be more like, "Ooh," we tend to think that, oh, well, then they're a rarity and then they're not that appreciated by the masses. Well, then when we show them that appreciation, they're going to be very honored by that. That's not the case. Because they're a niche, they actually do have several amount of guys, especially in certain demographics. It's something I want to touch on later, that are always blowing them up and always hitting them. Just like how, recently OnlyFans has been a big deal. What a lot of these girls have been on private, webcam platforms and stuff. And dudes have been paying, I mean, since probably the early 2000s, maybe even the 90s. Dudes have been reaching out, paying them just to talk, or just to show a picture, but not just paying like, 20, 30, $50. We're talking about like $500, just for a
yeah,
picture there. And it's when and a lot of these girls make a lot of their money from stuff like that, and they need it too, because at the end of the day, the PEDs, and as well as the trainers that they have to hire, there's a lot of money that they spend towards showcasing their bodies on the sport. That's one of the things we don't really factor in, is the meal prep, the meal, paying for all and all this other stuff. It adds up quite a bit. So they're mainly looking for, resources, money from us. And so for some of us who don't want to just throw a bunch of money we want to actually interact with them, like get to know them as people. It's like we have to take, in a way, a different approach. For me, it has been mostly through my art, but it's not like I feel exactly what you're saying, because most of the times I don't develop like any like long lasting friendships or relationships with a lot of these people. I have developed friendships with some of the people who are fans of female muscle, and even photographers in the sport. They've continued to hire me and reach out to me over the years. So that's been, that's been somewhat encouraging. But at the end of the day, too, what I'm realizing is, like, with me as an artist, I am going to continue to draw female muscle, but I'm not going to lock myself into where I have to get these girls to jump in and join me in supporting this movement. One of the big things I want to do is I would like to be the first guy who actually creates a movie that heavily features a female muscle character in. Like, I have my main characters, which are guys, but I'm also working through trying to create an Amazon woman, or even a few of them, that are also part of the main cast, because they're going to be rivals and / love interests to my main characters. But I've just realized, like, I'm going to still have to create that goddess in the comic, no matter what. It'd be great if I could get real female bodybuilders to support it, but if not, then gotta do it. I mean, what's it called? I can't remember the name of the guy who actually created Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman was like a fantasy idol that he created based off of some of the most beautiful and also charismatic women that he had encountered throughout his life. And
I think Dr. William Marston, that's his name.
yeah,
He has some freak to himself too. There's a lot of kinky stuff behind him as well. So
well, I mean, at the end of the day, every human being has a kink, I believe, or let's say 95% of us do. Most of us are taught to suppress that kink or just keep it private. Us as artists, I think we're kind of unique in that, yes, I think some of us ought to keep our kinks hidden, because I've seen some artists express their kinks, and even me, I'm just kind of like, I don't want to see all that. But I think some of us are meant to express those kinks to help, in a way, usher in a new comfortability for it in society. One of the things I remember recently is that I was drawing that drawing of Brittany Parrish at the Strongman event, and I had it on display. And not only was I doing it there, I would also take it with me at different bars and restaurants. And normally in the past, I've always been afraid to have my stuff on display, but especially not around average people. Like, it's one thing to have it at a bodybuilding or gym or at a strongman event, because those people are going to be like, oh yeah, cool. But doing that stuff, drawing them in actual public places where it's just normal people, that used to terrify me in the past. But now I've done it more, and I get a lot of positive feedback. I mean, there were several little girls who were about 8 to 10 years old. They saw me drawing Brittany, and they kept coming by my table, just, and then coming, kind of to look at me and be like, hi, and then look back at the drawing of her. And then, they also saw that I had the reference photo of her right next to it, because I had it on my phone. And in my mind, I'm like, they're so enamored by this, by, her beauty, as well as what they see in this drawing. This may inspire those girls to, not necessarily become a female bodybuilder or anything, but it may encourage them to, like, play sports or do something athletic and combat that negative reaction that a lot of these girls get. Because a lot of them, they're getting negative messaging from their boyfriends, from their mothers, from their fathers about, oh, you're too muscular, you're looking manly, like, that's not feminine, blah, 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 blah. Like, people need to understand a strong woman can still be very, very feminine. I don't understand this idea that women have to be extremely weak and be feminine. Like, the truth is, you can be strong and feminine at the same time. And when you look at old civilizations like the Spartans women were very athletic and very capable. And Athenians actually commented I'm trying to remember. I think it was maybe Herodotus. One of the historians actually commented about how Spartan women were the most beautiful in the world, and the Athenians hated Spartans. Yet he was willing to be like, they're the most beautiful in the world, and I think it's because they spent a lot of time wrestling, boxing, practicing martial skills, just in case if ever the men were to actually go down, they would be the last line of defense, basically. So I think in the past there have been cultures who have embraced that, but Western society has really tried to, like, you could say, put women in a box for the last several hundred years, and now the box is
Right.
open. It's being like, you know, uh,
I, I,
they're
I
kicking
I
down the
mean,
doors
like
real
they,
fast now.
yeah. They have them women warriors, but I think it was very rare to like certain at a certain point. You know, majority of the times you would just see like because sometimes I see old pictures and a woman was they weren't muscular. It was mostly like the man. They were they were the ones that was hard and they had to go out in the fields and work and stuff. Maybe other women too, but mostly men had to do like the heavy duty stuff and go to wars and stuff like that. But I've heard that they were like even like in ancient Greece, they were like women gladiators. But the
Yes,
thing is,
yes, there were.
but the men, but the thing was they weren't like popular to see than the men.
No,
That was the thing.
it's just
They,
like modern day female bodybuilding. Modern day female bodybuilding is, it doesn't attract the same crowd or attention as, say, the
right.
men's, or like the Mr. Olympia. And yeah, back in the day, it was the Romans that did have some female gladiators. And it's they're like part of the sideshow, but there's several niche people that actually like that type of stuff. I just feel like Western society over the last several hundred years has kind of glossed over that. And like you said, almost all cultures, the men are always the warrior. We're physically, naturally built more for that. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the things I feel like has been, when I look at, say, old Renaissance art, a lot of the women were very curvy. But if you actually look at closer to their
I didn't hear
anatomy,
you. What you said? They were
like
what?
I was saying with old Renaissance art, like Peter Paul Rubens, that's how we got the term Rubenesque women. They're very curvy, and on the surface, like most Western people would be like, "Oh, they're fat," But if you actually look, they're curvy. But when you look closer, he shows their anatomy. Those were strong women because back in, just for survival purposes, are you going to survive better with both a strong man and a strong woman, or are you going to survive better with just a strong man? You got to think about it when we were hunter gatherers and stuff. So I feel like in some pockets of the world, there has been a small appreciation for the strong woman physique. It's just been kind of hidden for the last several hundred years, mainly in America and Western Europe. And now because you can see women getting into so much more stuff with with military and joining the gyms and all that stuff. Now we're seeing and kind of like a small explosion of muscular women. I live in San Diego, and I do see, if I go to the beach on any random day, it's not like I'm going to see a female bodybuilder, but I will see a pretty muscular woman, and it's kind of like, wow, I used to go most of my life with not seeing that back when I was in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. Like how far do you see yourself doing like female muscle art like in a sense of like putting it out there in the mainstream, if I could ask you that.
That's a tough one, honestly, because if you would have asked me that like 2-3 years ago,
Right.
I probably would have said, forever. I would have said that that was going to be the number one thing that I focus on, because I really wanted to be that to be the main core of my brand. Well, as time is going on, I'm focusing right now, especially with my comic, a lot more on my male characters. One of them you just showed, the lizard guy right there. That's Besa. Um, he and another character named Sage are like my main uh, guys that I want to build a story around. And as you can see, I want to have a strong woman to kind of contrast and be along with them. And then I also want them to be strong too. You can see he's not no slouch. Um, but as I'm developing more of their story, I'm starting to realize like I'm getting some, peace and fulfillment focusing more on them and not trying to focus as much on impressing the female muscle,
Right.
people. Because that's one of the things that I don't think the girls understand is we are inspired by them. If we, as we engage more and more with them, if we find out like what you encountered where they're standoffish and we don't, we just see that a lot of them only care about people like us for our money, like if we can buy a session from them or, do whatever. Like what happens though is slowly over time, we do develop, unless you're just an all out simp, you develop, you develop a distaste for that. You start to see that, oh, this your muscles look amazing, your face, your body, everything looks amazing, but on the inside, you're not you're not what you're not a Wonder Woman. Like so one part of Wonder Woman is her look and her combat ability, but another essential part that people are attracted to about her is her nurturing, very loving, under wisdom, all of these different aspects of her. In my experience, I have met several female bodybuilders and muscle women who do display that. But if you were to go by percentages, it's a much smaller percentage than.
Yeah.
And so as a result, we kind of get jaded and kind of are like, dang, like I know in my case, I do want to draw these women to impress other, not just other female muscle lovers. Of course I do, because, like we have a small community, us guys. But in reality, I draw a lot of the women that I do because I want to impress them. It's just like a singer who's created a new song and he's trying to impress, woo this woman. We as artists are trying to do the same with our drawing ability. When we see that that's not necessarily getting that much, response from them, like, or in that type of way, at least for me, I lose my interest in drawing those women. I do still draw them. I just draw more from my imagination. Like I can create a lot of beautiful women in my head because, it's part of the whole fantasy, you could say. So I've learned over the time that, I don't need to always be reaching out to these girls and asking to draw them. I should just draw some of the ones who I've made up. And because there are several people who will, like, even when I was at my doctor's office today, one of them was curious about my drawings, and then I flipped through and she saw one of my buff female boxers and she was like, oh, I love that, and this is just a regular random woman. So
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, they have you ever like met like some comic book artists that a female muscle comic book artist because they got like they do have like female muscle artists, but the thing is they're hidden. Like a lot of them don't want to show their face. I've interviewed a couple of them, and they don't really want to put themselves out there like that. So
I was
that's a
just about
lot.
I was just about to say, I have never met a female muscle artist. And at times in the past, I have wanted to just to have another like-minded person to,